Nick Whalen, John McKechnie back with you to preview week 14 in the NFL, give you our best bets of the week. John, I am very excited for this week. We have maybe the most exciting, the highest stakes of any slates of the entire season. That's what happens when we get deeper into the year, but so many bangers we're going to get through. I don't want to tip your hand, but I will say that you have a play on the game that I have labeled the stay away of the year in typical John McKechnie fashion. I cannot wait to hear the case for that. But as always, we will give you our 3 favorite plays of the week, sides or totals. Talk about a few of the other games that maybe we're dancing around, thinking about adding to our card. We'll talk about our stayaways of the week. We will recap a just wild week in Survivor, especially in the Circa contest where they force you to pick games on Thursday and Friday. That did not go very well for the vast majority of the field. Very tricky Survivor week, especially if you do not have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers available. We'll give you some props. We'll give you some parlays. We'll give you a teaser, and we will finish out with our best bets. John, we're coming off a week 13 that, of course, was filled with plenty of carnage, especially on the Thursday-Friday slate. Second worst week of the season for favorites. We had favorites go just 9-7 straight up, 6-10 against the spread. Also, second worst mark of the season. Week 5, still holding the cake right now. 5-9 straight up, 5-9 against the number. Were favorites back in week 5. But of course, we had the Rams upset by the Carolina Panthers. We had all 4 favorites go down on Thursday and Friday, including 3 home favorites. So hopefully we get, a little bit more predictability this week, but it ties into the overall theme that we've been talking about all season, which is just parity all over the league. Like the bad teams are very bad, but there is just not a ton of separation right now between, say, the top 15 or 20 teams in the NFL.
No, there's really not, and there's these teams that we have like big questions about, like whether it's the Bears or the Panthers, but they've banked some quality wins, like to the point where it's like we're in week 14 now. Like how much luck is there really involved in this, or is there actually something going on in both of their cases? I think there's still arguments against both of them, and we'll get to the Bears, of course. The Panthers are on a bye, but there really is just this giant miasma of it. Just depends on the week. I know, right? Yeah, I've been hitting the books lately, so I hope I use that right. But anyway, point standing that it feels like the top 15 or so, like it does feel like any of those teams can beat the other on a given week in a way that we really haven't felt like in years, where there was such like a stratified, like those top 4 or 5 teams, like it maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 times would they lose to like a middle of the pack team.
All right, John, let's get to our top plays of the week. You have the whole board at your disposal. Where do you want to start?
I'm steering us right into the skid, folks.
I can't believe this. Say it.
Sorry. Give me the Washington Commanders plus 2.5 at the Minnesota Vikings. I'll take a second to let that sit. I do think that the Commanders are getting healthier, and Washington is a team that I've largely faded throughout the course of the season, even when Jaden Daniels was healthy. Pending the practice reports, feel like he's going to be in line to play here. I don't know if that is kind of holding the line right now, because Minnesota is in a free fall. Offensively, they cannot get out of their own way. Having J.J. McCarthy back does not necessarily help them whatsoever. Maybe it avoids the absolute floor scenario like we saw last week in Seattle with Max Brosmer scenes in there. But I think Washington, they showed me a little spunk. The season is largely over, but they're going to keep fighting. Got Terry McLaurin back. I feel like Washington has a good shot here at covering. I love that they're getting points in this spot. And again, I just think that this Vikings offense cannot generate anything. And really, I was talking about Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota has like earned himself a lifetime backup contract. Like however long he feels like playing football and paying for his kids' college tuition, like he can just keep going. He has played extremely well as a backup this year. So even if it's him out there, I still like Washington. A little bit concerned that this is a bit donkey-ish, because DraftKings now is showing their action. 68% of the handle is on Washington, which is a little bit concerning to me, but I'm doing it anyway. Give me the Commanders plus 2.5.
You're a brave man. You are excuse me, I'm battling a sore throat today. You are a brave man. You're a braver man than me for taking on this game, John. I As you know, in my picks article on the site, I do a Nick Whalen stay away of the week. Obviously, it was Vikings Commanders. I went as far as to say it will be a finalist for the Nick Whalen stay away of the year. So I don't mind diving into the storm here. It's actually worked out pretty well for us on the show throughout the season, diving in on these games that a lot of people don't want to touch, but I admire your courage. All right, my first play, I wanted to go with a game that I did bet earlier this week, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, under 43.5. But we're not going to cheat here. That number is all the way down to 41.5. I don't love it quite as much there. I think that 42, 43 could actually matter. So we're going to wipe that one from the slate. But just for the record, I do like the under at the original number. We'll go instead to a different under, 48.5 in Jags Colts. And this is a number that continues to fall. So grab it while you can. For one, we got weather in Jacksonville. That is first and foremost. And we're recording this on Thursday afternoon. As we always say, things could change by Sunday. There's currently a 100% chance of heavy rain for the Jacksonville area all afternoon, basically from like 7 a.m. until 5 p.m. The heaviest of that rain projected to be falling during this game. So that's one thing. We got weather. On top of that, the Indianapolis Colts have now played their two worst offensive games of the season back-to-back. Week 12 against Kansas City, I believe they had 255 yards of total offense. Last week, barely went over that against Houston. They have lost time of possession 43 minutes to 25 minutes in the first game against Kansas City, 35 to 25 in the second game against Houston. They are minus 61 in total plays run in those two games. So it's a combination of, yes, the defense not being able to get off the field, but to me, it's more about the offense not converting third downs, not converting fourth downs at nearly the rate that they were earlier in the year. I believe they were 3 of 15 on third and fourth down last week against Houston. Of course, we have Daniel Jones playing through a fractured fibula, which just doesn't seem like a good idea. But, when your other option is Riley Leonard or, I guess, pulling Anthony Richardson off of IR. He's somehow still on IR from the resistance band incident, I think, right? There's been no update on that. So they're just going to keep rolling Daniel Jones out there in the rain against what has been a very good Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Jags have won 3 in a row. They're not doing it offensively. The offense is still struggling week to week. Trevor Lawrence turned it over 4 times against Arizona in week 12. They only put up 272 yards, 4.8 yards per play, had 13 penalties last week against the Tennessee Titans. I watched that whole game, John. They had 2 good drives the entire game. They're still one of the worst third down teams in the NFL. There was a point in the first half where we had 6 consecutive 3-and-outs between the Jags and the Titans. So I'm starting to trust this Jacksonville defense, which looks like it's going to get Trayvon Walker back this week. I don't think we should be buying in really on either offense right now. That Jags defense, by the way, up to 5th in EPA per play, 3rd in EPA per pass. I think this is more of a grind it out on the ground type of game. Certainly Jonathan Taylor's ability to just break this thing open and run for 200 yards. That's in the back of my mind here, but I think we see both teams play it relatively conservatively. I think we see a lot of Travis Etienne on the Jacksonville side. I think we are going under 48.5.
They always talk about bear weather this time of year. They don't talk enough about Jags weather because it can get a little bit rough there along the St. Johns River. Get a little windy. Yeah.
Down on the Riverwalk there.
It.
Yeah.
Buddy, you get a nice draft coming off of that. So I feel it. Your comment on Daniel Jones, and I do kind of have like a galaxy brain. Like Riley Leonard cannot throw at an NFL level. That dude can run. That dude there should be a Riley Leonard like leprechaun package that they throw in there because just let the boy straight ahead with his ridiculous. Let him wear his Notre Dame uniform and just see what happens.
Yeah, the Jones mobility factor looms very large here because Jacksonville through 10 weeks they had fewer sacks than any team in the NFL. Last 3 games they have 12. Like they have ramped things up defensively. So I don't feel good about either offense here. Funny you say that about Jags weather, by the way, because like right before I started talking, I just Googled the updated forecast for Jacksonville. And instead of typing Jacksonville weather, I typed Jaguars weather and it still came up. It still brought up Jacksonville. So there we go. All right, John. So I have an under in pocket. You have the Commanders plus 2.5 in pocket. Your next play.
I'm going to do something that hasn't been totally the norm this year for me, especially when it comes to the Broncos. I called them a stay away last week when they were laying 6.5 in Washington. I am going to lay the wood here, though. They are playing against the Las Vegas Raiders. They are giving 7.5. So that obviously I can already foresee the comment section being like, look at this square bozo. Look at him, asking for more than a touchdown on the road against a divisional opponent. I hear you. I already saw the plays that you were going to make, and I'm going against it. I think that the Raiders are the worst team in football.
Yep.
I think they are floundering. I think that they are. There's a mutiny to keep it pirate themed within that organization right now. The coaching staff just cannot keep a lid on this stuff. They're abysmal. I know that the Raiders played them tough on that Thursday night game about a month or so ago. A lot of that was Bo Nix inflicted. And I think that the Broncos defense played incredible that night, but the offense was abysmal. I don't think that the offense is abysmal twice against this Raiders defense. I think that, they had their close call. The Broncos did last week against Washington, escaped with the win. I think that this is a bit more of a flex coming from Denver. They haven't been great on the road against the spread, just 2-4 against the spread on the road. The Raiders, by no surprise here, 2-4 against the spread at home. So it's kind of a wash as far as that goes. But Bo Nix, I think that we get decent Bo Nix this week, and that's enough to cover more than 7.5.
Yeah, I kind of like this because I think with Denver, not covering again, almost losing that game straight up, and the Raiders, playing a decent first half, I guess, if we're looking for any positives in that Chargers game, I think you're right. I think a lot of people will just say, all right, I'm done laying points with Denver. Like, this team just can't cover. I mean, they've won 9 in a row. 7 of those 9 wins have come by 4 points or less, which is just insane. Like, the chances of winning that many games in a row when so many of those are coming down to one possession is just astronomical. But the Raiders' complete lack of a running game, I think, is really going to hurt them here. And like you said, if you avoid just a Bo Nix disaster game, which he did have in that first matchup, I think you're in good shape here. How many 3-and-outs, by the way, do you think Denver had in the first Raiders game?
Having watched that with a particularly keen eye because I was on them in Survivor that week.
Oh,
I want to say, like, were there 5 3-and-outs?
There were 7 3-and-outs by the Broncos. That's hard to do. Sometimes games only have 7 total possessions.
That was a miserable, that was one of the worst Survivor sweats because it wasn't even a fun game. It's just just the worst type of rock fight. Abysmal.
Yeah. I like your call here. I mean, Broncos are 1-5 against the spread as at least a 6-point favorite. That's bad. The Raiders are 1-3 against the spread as at least a 6-point dog. So there's really no trend here. I think that pushes you one way or the other. I kind of like this idea of finally we get a decent offensive game from the Broncos. All right, my next play. I'm going to get in the mud here. I feel like I'd usually allow you to be the one who's rolling around in the pigsty. I got to get in on this. Give me the New York Jets +3 against the Miami Dolphins this week. I'm a little surprised when you look at the breakdown and as far as the betting action so far. 64% of the bets are on Miami. 83% of the money is on Miami. So that kind of goes against what I'm about to say here. That implies that the sharp money is coming in on the Dolphins. But really, both these teams are kind of feeling themselves right now. Jets have quietly covered 5 games in a row. Miami's won 3 in a row. They had that big win over the Buffalo Bills. I'm not really buying it. Miami was very lucky to win that game against New Orleans. The Saints contributed so heavily to their own demise and still should have had a chance to steal that game late had it not been for the returns 2-point conversion that basically sealed up the win for the Dolphins. You're also looking at a spot with Miami where they have not played a true road game since week 8. The only quote unquote road game they played was overseas against Washington. So they have not played in any sort of environment like this. And we're not going to get, 15 degrees and 2 feet of snow in New York, but we're talking 30, 35 degrees. Like, they haven't played a cold weather game all year. They haven't been on the road in forever. We don't trust Tua in these situations against a still formidable New York Jets defense. I thought there would be more of a fall off after trading Quinn and Williams, and they're kind of just the same unit. The last thing I'll say here, huge special teams advantage for the New York Jets. Every single week, this team is making plays on special teams to help win games. It happened again last week. Obviously, we saw the Jets basically single-handedly beat the Browns with a couple of returns early this season. I can't get on board with the Miami Dolphins as a road favorite. So this feels like a 17-16, maybe like a 21-20 type of game, but give me points with the Jets.
I like that call. I'm going to talk about that game a little bit later, but no, I think that you make a pretty compelling case. And my initial lean was I just don't like the Dolphins whenever they're favored, and I don't like them being outside this time of year. Stay inside, Dolphins.
I know. I don't want him outside. I don't want him outside whatsoever. They do get Darren Waller back this week, though. So, Jeff, our guy Jeff Erickson said he was getting a lot of people barking at him for not ranking Darren Waller higher this week. Tread lightly. I don't think we're going to get a ton of points there. All right, John, we each got 2 plays on the board. You are going to one of the bigger games of the week, of which there are many. Take us out to Sunday Night Football.
All righty. I love the Texans plus 3.5 at Kansas City. Can't believe KC is 6-6, and I understand we've been conditioned over the last 7 years to just trust that Kansas City is going to figure it out, to trust Mahomes, to trust Andy Reid, to trust the Chiefs at night, trust them at Arrowhead. I get all of that. But this is a really, really beat up Kansas City offensive line. And that is about the worst thing that you can have going on for you when the
100%.
Texans front seven is coming to town. Because my God, Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson, those guys are game wreckers. You all saw it last week. You all saw it the week before against the Bills. They're knocking Josh Allen around in a way that we don't really ever see. I think that something similar could play out here. I think it's a huge deal that Kansas City is as banged up as they are, especially at the tackle spots. So I think this Texans defense is one that is such a difference maker. It's right there on par with the Broncos, if not better. It's sort of a choose what flavor of defense you prefer, but both of them are complete difference makers on that side of the ball. I think the Texans do just enough offensively to stay within this and potentially, have some short fields, some turnovers. I like the Texans here to cover this 3.5. It's not 3.5 at every single book, but with the hook, I do like the Texans mostly because that defense versus kind of a floundering Kansas City team that is really beat up at the wrong spots here.
The injuries on the O-line are massive. Josh Simmons is already on IR. I think you'll have Trey Smith likely out of this game, and then Juwan Taylor also questionable. It might be better off without Juwan Taylor, who I've seen up close and personal for a number of years with the Jags. He's not very good. But either way, he's still starting for the Chiefs for a reason. What do you think about this as an under spot? I was thinking about going under 42 in this game.
I like that because, the Chiefs offense isn't generating much, and I don't expect them to here, of course, with what I was saying about the Texans defense. And Houston's offense is a bit clunky. I don't know if they necessarily made the right move with their offensive coordinator. Stroud still hasn't quite looked like he did as a rookie. So I don't think that the Texans are primed to put up a ton of points either. So, I could see this being like a 17-14 Chiefs game. I think would be very, very likely, which would sail us to the under.
All right. So I got, as usual, 2 games I'm deciding between for the final spot here. Let's go with the double play. A double play here on the under 44.5, as well as Bears plus 6.5 in Bears Packers. So I thought the Bears would get a little more respect here on the number. I know Green Bay is coming off of maybe its most impressive win of the season against Detroit. Also needed, I wouldn't say a lot of luck, but a lot of things to go their way in that game. 3 for 3 on 4th down, converting just huge, plays over and over throughout that game against a limited Detroit Lions team that basically did not have St. Brown the entire game. Injuries on that defense, injuries on the offensive line. So impressive win for Green Bay. But at the same time, that's a very different version of the Packers that we've seen for most of the season. I would like to imagine that Green Bay remains that aggressive offensively, but the larger sample suggests that they'll probably just try to, maintain possession, shorten this game. That's what they've done all year. So that's where the under 44.5 comes into play here. 6.5 with Chicago. I mean, this is a team that won outright as a 10-point dog at Lambeau Field at the end of last season. I know there were, some factors at play as far as like, would Jordan Love play? Would he not? He did play in that game. They lost outright as a 10-point favorite. This is a much better version of the Chicago Bears. I remain very skeptical of this team, very skeptical of this defense. But finally, last week, man, I have nothing bad to say about the Bears. I mean, that was a complete beatdown. I guess you could say that, Philly coming out and just playing an F- game all the way around, yeah, that contributed. But the way the Bears were able to control the line of scrimmage, the way they were able to run the ball all over that Philly defense. I know Green Bay has been one of the best run defenses in the NFL. We got big-time injuries on the defensive line for the Packers. Devontae Wyatt's done for the year. Doesn't look like Lucas Van Ness is coming back this week. Another one of their interior starters, Carl Brooks, he's very much questionable. That seems like a 50-50 call. So you could be without 3 of your top 5, top 6 defensive linemen going up against a Bears offensive line that is healthy and that ranks in the top 5 in both run blocking and pass blocking at PFF. So I think both teams want to control this game on the ground. I think Chicago will have enough success that they can burn clock. Green Bay gets enough stops, to prevent Chicago from completely running away with this game. I think the Packers win. I think they win by a field goal. I think 6.5 is too many points in a divisional game when you got a 9-3, very well coached Chicago Bears team coming into Lambeau. So give me the Bears plus 6.5. Give me the under 44.5.
So this was on my stayaways, but it's
Okay.
because of largely because of the case you just laid out for the Bears. Like, what are we missing? Like, we're
I know.
there was all the talk last week. Like, they're the worst 8-3 team ever, according to somebody's spreadsheet type of deal. But they took it to the Eagles at the link or whatever. Like, that was pretty insane. I thought, like, very, very. It's very much
It
like
didn't feel fluky. It was the first win all year where you can't say like, oh, they were on a backup quarterback, or the other team turned it over 4 times. Like, it was just a good win.
So that leads me to just say, like, the Brian and Windhorse. Why is the spread of the week?
Yeah.
Why are the Packers favored by this much? And I just don't quite get it. I think that, are they getting more credit for beating the Lions than the Bears are for beating Philly? I don't know, but 6.5 to me, like, I could see it going the other way, and the Packers kind of keep rolling, and the Bears maybe end up looking a bit more like what we kind of thought they were earlier on in the year. So I keep going back and forth here. The line is kind of like putting my mind in a bit of a pretzel here. But the Packers last week, like, it was such a anomalous game from them offensively, but they knew going in, just throw
Right.
at this terrible Detroit secondary. I don't think that you can have such like a simplified, stratified
Yeah.
game plan against the Bears. Not to say that the Bears are great at any one level of their defense or anything, but there isn't like the obvious glaring weakness for you to pick apart the way there was with the Lions last week in the Dome.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's a bit inflated. If I were to take a side here, I would lean Bears, but because it's 6.5, I don't know what to do about it.
I know. I would love for it to be 7.5, of course, but I feel okay about this one. Bears are healthier in the secondary. It looks like they might get TJ Edwards back. That helps out the linebacking core. And then one other point on the under here, we're looking at like 15 degrees with wind at kickoff in Green Bay. So again, no snow, no rain, nothing like that. But I mean, 15 degrees. There's a significant difference. You lived in Madison, Wisconsin for a number of years. There's a big difference between like 35, like, oh, it's cold, and like 15. I mean, things are slowing down. Guys are dropping balls. The ball feels heavy. So I think, again, both teams are going to try to establish the run. And I think I trust the Bears to do that a little bit more right now than I do Green Bay. So yeah, we'll see. We're going with a double play on this one. We could go 2-0 on this game. We could go 0-2. We will find out. The other game I was considering, by the way, was taking 4.5 with Tennessee. So let's get into Survivor, John. The last 2 weeks have been like, yeah, not a whole lot of carnage. Here's what happened. I mean, just off the rails in Circus Survivor on the Thursday, Friday slate. Massive carnage on both days. We entered the week with 900 live entries in the Circus Survivor contest. After Friday, we were down to 49 live entries. So 489, about 54% of the field went out on Philly. 269 went out on Baltimore. That's about 30%. 78 entries on KC, 13 on Detroit, 2 no picks. Which I don't know, maybe they just didn't have a team available. I hope. I can't imagine just not submitting a pick at this point in the year. But we had 28 entries go through on Chicago, 10 on Cincinnati, 8 on Dallas, only 3 on Green Bay, which is interesting. I feel like that's maybe the one that I would have felt the best about. Obviously, the tightest spread of those games. But the way that Circa does things, even if you did make it through the beginning of that slate, you got to make more picks for the Sunday, Monday. They call it the 13B week. So only 4 of those remaining 49 entries did go out. All 4 of those were on the LA Rams. So that leaves us with 45 entries remaining. Implied value just north of $415,000 per entry. So congratulations to the 45 still available in Circus Survivor. The Grandissimo contest, John, we've been keeping an eye on that. The 100K version of Survivor, it's over. All 6 remaining entries ended up going out last week. So 3 on Baltimore, 3 on Philly. That means the $6.9 million pot ends up being split 6 ways. So about $1.15 million per entry. So congrats to those 6. What a way to go out for the 3 on Philly, by the way. And what a sweat for the 3 who went out on Thursday night on Baltimore. I mean, you're thinking it's over. You're like, we can't possibly get another upset. So in a roundabout way, like the three that go out on Baltimore, you're rooting hard for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, especially considering the stakes at hand, insane way for that slate to break, and then going back to the Sunday's action, I can't imagine the pain of like you got the Rams stashed in your back pocket,
I
the
know.
team
You've
that
been saving them
everyone
all
is
year.
crowning as the best team in football, and it's like, oh baby, they get the Panthers. I'm not even thinking about. I don't have to worry about anything this week. That's, I mean, I'm sure the I'm surprised that only 4 teams went out. I would imagine it's because the Rams have had some like really soft spots. Like I used them on the Saints a few weeks back type of thing.
Yep.
But I got to imagine each of those teams that went out on the Rams, there's no one who had the Rams in their pocket and didn't use them. I would have to think. That sucks.
Yeah, that's the worst, man. That's the worst. It's one thing if you go down with, like when Buffalo lost to Miami, it's like, all right, me and 30% of the field went down. But man, to think I mean, you probably had like what would be graded the best entry going forward, right? It's like nobody else has the Rams. You have the Rams. And then to go out like that, man. Ugh. All right, looking at this week. I'm going to start by saying I'm very scared, John. I am alive in the Pool Genius Survivor Bowl. Stakes are a little bit lower than Grandissimo, but 10K on the line. We are down to 8 entries in the Survivor Bowl. We had 2 go out on Philly, 1 went out on the Rams last week. The other 7 entries, other than mine, all have Tampa Bay available. I do not have Tampa Bay. I used Tampa Bay back in week 3. So do I go Browns? Do I pick a side in Dolphins Jets? Do I take the Eagles against the Chargers on Monday night? Do I dare follow you on the Commanders? I have the Jags. I have the Texans. If Lamar Jackson doesn't play, maybe the Steelers become an option. I am completely lost here. I will probably end up taking Cleveland, and I do not feel good about it.
As someone who picked up 2 strikes in the Weenie Survivor League that I was playing in, yeah, it's hard for me to pound the table for Cleveland. But if there were an instance to do so, it would be at home against the Titans. And like this Eagles team, like I know they're good. I did see that Jalen Carter got ruled out, but
right, that's tough.
Like one hand Justin Herbert versus them, or Trey Lance potentially. I do feel like the Eagles, if they've got anything left in the if they want to avoid the sort of collapse that they had 2 years ago late in the year, they got to have this one on Monday night. I don't know if you want to wait that long for your weekly sweat, but yeah, you've got some tricky ones to deal with. I don't know what to do, or I definitely don't know what to do about that Dolphins Jets game. Like I would probably stay off that one for Survivor. But everything else, I think you can at least make a decent argument. And of course, I mean, I love the Commanders this week.
The thing that worries me about the Browns is, one, Tennessee is actually a pretty good run defense. Like I don't think they can just hand it off to Quinshon Judkins and expect to like march their way down to like 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like Quinshon Judkins rushing prop, we'll get to that in a moment, is 91.5. Only one running back has gone over that number against Tennessee all season. It was Jonathan Taylor twice. Like they stopped the run, and if Tennessee returns a punt in the first quarter, or they hit a deep ball to Chimere DK and all of a sudden it's 7-0, like how do the Browns come back? Like they can't rally back against still a reasonable defense, not a good defense, a reasonable defense in Tennessee. You got a quarterback who's like minus 15% completion percentage over expected.
Chimere DK, and this is a mark in your favor here. Developed where? I say he's developed at Wisconsin. He was a Florida mercenary. To me, he's a Badger.
I believe he's leading the NFL in all-purpose yards, by the way.
That's right.
Which is just a crazy stat. Anyway, I will not go drone on and on about my Survivor entry. I feel like this is the week that it's going to happen, but we will find out. Hopefully I'll be in a great mood when we do this next Thursday. Let's run through some props real quickly, John. I'll start us off this week. I'll go through mine here. Trevor Lawrence under 225.5 passing yards. Again, playing into the weather. Still a pretty decent Colts defense. Give me James Cook over 15.5 receiving yards and over 121.5 rushing and receiving yards. We're going Brock Bowers over 61.5 receiving yards. Looks like a bad matchup on paper. Technically is, but last 2 weeks against this Denver defense, we've seen a couple of tight ends go off, including Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce. So I think we do get some Brock Bowers production. Give me Xavier Worthy over 3.5 catches, getting that at plus 115. Travis Etienne over 13.5 rushing attempts. went just under this number last week, but well over in his previous 4 games. He's gone over in 8 of 12. Again, it's going to be rainy in Jacksonville. I think the Jags lean on the run. And like I just mentioned with Judkins, under 91.5 rushing yards. Jonathan Taylor, only back to do that this season. I think the volume will be there for Judkins. I think Tennessee will be ready for it. Anytime touchdowns, we got Tyler Warren plus 165. We got Devon Achane minus 140. Rashee Rice plus 115. 17 red zone targets for Rashee Rice in 6 games. They also use him as a runner in the red zone. And put together a little, is this guy the starter touchdown parlay?
Nice.
Zach Charbonnet, Tyler Algier, both to score, pays 6-1.
Love that. We Charbonnet and Algier,
kind of mirror
extremely frustrating guys to have for fantasy, but when you can bet on their touchdowns, that's where they shine.
All right, what do you got for props?
Okay, I'm going on the other side of that Jags Indy game. Give me Daniel Jones under 240.5 passing yards. Since he's gotten injured, 181 and 200 passing yards in each of those 2 games. So I think under 240.5, especially with that weather consideration, is a good play. Give me James Cook 2+ touchdowns. That's plus 270. If you want to get a little spicy on the other side of that game, Chase Brown for that same wager plus 650. Just saying. The freshly paid Mark Andrews over 30.5 receiving yards. Then I'm going to drop a boomer on you. Jacoby Brisket over 37.5 pass attempts, because that guy just throws it a lot.
That's a lock.
Over 37.5. The Cardinals are going to be trailing. They're the biggest dogs of the week. He has sailed past this in 4 of his last 5. 2 touchdown scores for you. Chris Rodriguez plus 190. And then the Bet Rivers has this one at plus 290. Other places probably closer to plus 230, but going along with the Brissett, throwing it a lot, give me Maserati Marv to score a touchdown, plus 290 at Bet Rivers.
Is Maserati Marv or Mitsubishi Marv, is he playing this week?
Yes.
I don't know. He hasn't practiced all week. They said he's got this heel injury. I don't know if they're listed props. Maybe he is. But all right, we'll ride it if he's out there.
Okay, ride it if it's out there. Otherwise, I never said anything.
Very much looking forward to seeing how this plays out, seeing how our picks pan out this week, John. Cannot wait to sit down and watch football. And as we record this on Thursday, it probably won't be out till later in the week. I mean, best game of the week might be Thursday Night Football, man. I cannot wait to watch Lions, Cowboys tonight and see how everything runs for us in Week 14. We'll be back doing this next Thursday and through the rest of the season into the playoffs right here on the RotoWire YouTube channel. You see the code right there on your screen. You can find the links in the episode description. YouTube 15. Put that in at rotowire.com. 15% off everything we offer.